So I'm originally from Nigeria. I moved to the US about 20 years ago. The cloud scenario is pretty much a data center, which is just hosted by another provider like Amazon.
I wanted to know what is the difference between DevOps, SysOps, and cloud solutions architect? What's the difference between those three? Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, this interview, I have the wonderful guest from America, Azuka. He's my first Black male from the United States, and he works as an AWS consultant. I'm really excited to have him on my channel, and we're going to kickstart the questions by asking him to tell us who he is, what he does, where he's based.
Hi, everyone. Like she mentioned, my name is Azuka. I'm an AWS consultant. I've been in the tech space for about 8 years. I've been in the cloud, doing cloud work for the last 3 years, working as an AWS consultant. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. My job role pretty much involves helping different companies at different stages of their migration journey, moving from on-prem to cloud, pretty much help them facilitate that journey, their digital transformation.
Awesome. Could you expand a little bit more about your role? Because I know some people who watch my videos don't really know necessarily what cloud computing is or what AWS does. So please, could you expand on your role and the industry that you're working in?
Sure. So AWS is an acronym for Amazon Web Services. And what AWS is pretty much a bunch of services being hosted in the cloud. What people don't understand, or what people, the misconception that people have about cloud is that it's just, something, in the cloud or something intangible. But the cloud scenario is pretty much a data center, which is just hosted by another provider like Amazon. And then they rent out these services to companies who need infrastructure, typically using a pay-as-you-go model. So basically, it's the actual hardware still exists. It's just being hosted at a different location, and then different companies have the opportunity to rent it from Amazon. So these services include things like compute, storage, databases, and even networking. So when you put all these services together, that's what Amazon kind of packages and then sells to different consumers as a cloud service.
Thank you. I like to think of cloud computing as like for like everyday people, really. Sort of like how nowadays no one really has a hard drive. Well, some people do. They tend to upload it onto Google Drive or Apple Cloud, and then you can access that anywhere. But it's now applied into industry. So corporations are doing the same thing, but with their data and their information. That's the simplest way I like to explain cloud. But yes, like you said, instead of you having the hard drive or the hard disk, it's now Amazon who's now hosting it in their data centers. So thank you very much for that explanation. Because I think a lot of people don't actually know what cloud computing is. Also, I wanted to ask, why did you decide to pursue a career within tech? And can you take us through your educational journey from graduating from high school all the way to where you are now? Sure.
So I'm originally from Nigeria. I moved to the US about 20 years ago. So while I was back in Nigeria, I always had affinity for computers. I started working on computers from a very, very young age, and I always knew that was something that I wanted to get into down the line. And so when I came to the US, I started off on a graduate college studying computer science, and I had got my undergrad degree in computer science, but I also did have an aspect of business that I was kind of drawn to. And so after I got my my bachelor's in computer science, I went and pursued a master's in business administration. And so I always had the computer side, the tech side in me, and also, I had this affinity for business. And throughout my career, I was kind of, looking for the perfect bridge of how to kind of make this IT experience merge with my business acumen. So for a while, I was kind of focused on the business side and entrepreneurship and coming up with different ideas and building out businesses. But there was always that thing in me that wanted to also do tech. And so when I was at that point, where I had to make a decision, I kind of started looking for what the hottest trend in tech was at that point in time. And it just happened to be cloud. A lot of companies were considering their digital migration journey. And so I did some more research, and I was like, who's the biggest, provider for cloud services? If you look at the market share, Amazon has that covered by, they're the market leaders by a huge amount, So obviously I figured that, going with Amazon, developing Amazon skill sets would definitely make me more marketable and more valuable, just because, a lot of companies are, leveraging the Amazon platform. So I started, doing some self-study. Actually, Amazon has a good amount of material if you're trying to get into the cloud space without even, making any monetary investments, right? You could go to AWS.training, and they have a lot of information that you could use to actually get your beginner certification, which would be the cloud practitioner. So I took about 2 weeks, and I leveraged that material on Amazon, and I studied the cloud practitioner certification, and I was able to kind of get that that certification out the way in about 2 weeks, and once I got that, I was like, looking for what was next after that. I did some more information. And I found that the cloud practitioner certification does not necessarily get you into a job. It's basically just for foundational knowledge. And so I decided that, after taking that, the next path that I wanted to face was the solutions architect. So I found some more information, and I leveraged A Cloud Guru, which is actually one of the best platforms, I think, in my opinion, for cloud computing. So I leveraged A Cloud Guru, and I studied the solutions architect curriculum, and I was able to get that in about, I think, 2 months or so. And after that, I went and sat for the exam, and I passed the exam on my first try, luckily for me. So with that certification, I was able to then start going to the job market and start, trying to apply for positions as solutions architect. Now, this is a little unconventional because, a lot of people who come from different backgrounds or different industries, feel like, if you get a certification, it's kind of an easy way for you to get a job, which is definitely not, definitely not the truth. True matter is, I had a lot of interviews. I flunked a lot of interviews, didn't do well. But, what I took from each interview that I didn't do well was something that would make me better, right? So whatever questions I couldn't answer in an interview, I kind of took that, and I went and, did some more practice, kind of did some more research in that, and just kept building my experience. And so when I finally found the right position that was for me, when I had the interviews, I had all the right answers, and I was a perfect fit for that job. And with that, I was able to land, my first position, which was, very good, actually, a good company. The pay was awesome. Everything worked out well for me. It did require me to actually leave town and go to a different city for a while. But what I gained, or the experience I gained from that, was basically, so what that company was an in-house shop where we had salespeople who would go out and sell out AWS solutions. Yeah. And then once they sold the solutions, they would bring it back in-house, and then we had to build that out. So that was the perfect environment for me to learn, because we were working on different things in-house, different solutions in AWS. How do you, do certain things? And so even though my discipline was as a solutions architect, I was exposed to DevOps. I was exposed to SysOps, so I was really able to kind of get in the mix of things. And that kind of fueled my passion to learn more about AWS. And so in a 1 year period, I went and got my DevOps certification as well as my SysOps certification, just because it made me a better employee for my company, and I was able to deliver more for our clients. So once I was able to get the certifications, I was able to put that together, and that kind of made me a little bit more valuable. And at that point in time, I was kind of, I figured that, with the more information I had about AWS, I could go get a better role. And so I got back in the job market, even though it was just a year after I had initially got in. And the difference was huge, from when I was trying to get in to a year after that. I had got 3 certifications, and I had worked on multiple projects, and I had built my experience up, right? The difference was huge. I got, every company every company that I applied to, I got an offer from them, and it just became, which one made the most sense for me. And so I decided that, I wanted something that was closer to home, and I didn't want to travel as much, so I picked, I took an offer that was much more closer to my home. But that was pretty much my journey from where I started to where I am today.
There's three things I want to pick up on what you've said. So I really liked your mentality in terms of when you had your interviews, you may not have got them, but you used that to learn for your next interview and consecutively until you got your job role. I think that's a really important point, because there's a lot of people who are applying for jobs and they get rejected. And, like you said, the perseverance of being like, okay, I didn't get this job, but then I learned from that, and then I applied the knowledge from what I didn't do well to my next job, and then eventually you found the job role that was right for you. So I really wanted to highlight, because a lot of people, are applying for jobs and stuff like that, and like you said, you've got to learn, and eventually the right job will come to you. Another thing you mentioned was, you said you're really interested in business and entrepreneurship. It sounds like your first role, where they were doing sales, you had sort of that benefit of both. Maybe the sales part of it was, some aspect of business, but also you had the tech side of it, which is also really exciting, where you got a job where you were able to exercise both interests, rather than you just being a tech person and you just being in sales, which is quite exciting in tech, because now it's like you're able to leverage different things that you like. You're not just a tech person, you can also be in sales, which is really exciting. And then the other thing was this continuation of learning. So yes, you got your AWS certification, but you still did your DevOps and you still did your SysOps. But then I also did the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. And from listening to you, I've now understood the importance of me to now learn about the cloud solutions architect, because like you said, the certification necessarily isn't enough, but the experience or the understanding of how to use the services is really important. So thank you for that insightful information. I wanted to know, what is the difference between DevOps, SysOps, and cloud solutions architect? What's the difference between those three?
A good question. So they're all different disciplines, and I try to break it down as easy as this, right? Say you had a property or you had a house, right, mm-hmm. that you were going to build from scratch, and then you were going to list it out to some tenants or rent it out. The solutions architect would be your architect that came and designed the property and said, he's pretty much the architect and says a room has to be here, a door has to be here. You can't put a bathroom next to a kitchen or things like that, right? Because they come in with that expert knowledge, and and they tell you how to position things. Now, the DevOps or the developer is who you would consider your contractor, who is the handyman and who goes and builds builds the things out, right? And then your SysOps administrator would be your handyman or your fixer, the person who comes and if your bathroom is clogged or your a window doesn't open, he's the guy who comes in and fixes those things. So everyone plays a different role at different part of the migration journey, right? So solutions architect would come in the beginning and he would craft or design the solution for the problem. And when we say a solutions architect, right, it's very hard to kind of describe what you do, because you're basically solving a problem, and the problem differs from client to client, right? For example, if it's a migration journey, you could have a client who's in a digital transformation journey. You could have a client who's at the beginning who's just trying to say, well, I have a couple applications that's running in my data center, right? Is it the right time, or is it right for me to move those applications to cloud? Mm-hmm. So solutions architect could come in and say, well, what are the needs of the application? What is the size of the machine, the instance size? What database is it connected to? What are the dependencies? Now, do those dependencies exist on cloud? Is it something that is fully managed by AWS, or is it something that we would have to create from scratch? So that's the job of solutions architect, to kind of see if it's the right fit and kind of help you position that. Now, once the solutions architect has come up with a diagram or solution, then it goes to the DevOps engineer, who would then build that out. So a lot of things that DevOps engineers do is kind of build out solutions. They leverage certain things like continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, things like that, how to automate the process, how to make it easy. And then once that is all built out and then you have that successfully running in the cloud, platform. And then that's the job of a systems administrator to come in and make sure, things are running right? How do we manage things at scale? We have 100 EC2 instances, right? If you're working with one EC2 instance or one server, it's easy to make a configuration change. But when you're dealing with 100 servers or 1,000 servers, how do you do things at scale? How do you push configuration management change to 100 servers, 1,000 servers? So that's the job of a systems administrator, to come in and make sure things run well once you've successfully made that shift, or once you've made that digital transformation journey from pretty much from your data center to your cloud. So those are the different disciplines. But that's a high level description of what that is.
From my understanding, it seems like the cloud solutions architect, like you said, designs, draws like a roadmap. And then the DevOps person is the actual person who brings it all together. Like are they the most technical? Not necessarily the most technical, but out of the three in terms of the hierarchy, are they the ones who are involved? Responsibility is technical, and then the SysOps is involved with testing to see if it actually works.
Yes, and fixing. So all three of them do require some technical knowledge. Because from a solutions architect point, you need to be technical to know what resources you would leverage in cloud. As a DevOps engineer, most times they do require some programming experience, and that's one of the things I see that kind of push people away from the DevOps space because of programming. But I realized that it's actually it's not that difficult. Once you kind of get a hand of what you're doing. When I got into this space, I had no idea of writing code, but it's like, the more I do, granted, I'm a consultant now. So consultant is more different because you tend to play each of the three roles based on the client that you're working on. So that kind of helped me use my developer skills and start programming. But it's really not that, major. I tell people, if you could be a solutions architect, and with a little hands-on experience, you could be a developer as well. It's not that different.
Exciting. Thank you for informing us. There's another thing you mentioned about A Cloud Guru, because I used A Cloud Guru for for my AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam and also the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. But the only issue is I only did the 7-day trial. I didn't pay for it all. So would you say is it a worthwhile investment for someone who's looking to enhance their cloud computing career?
That definitely is actually. So the two major guys used to be the A Cloud Guru and Linux Academy. You're probably aware that they merged now. So I think it's possible to have one service and still be able to have access to Linux Academy as well as A Cloud Guru. But now A Cloud Guru is, in my opinion, like I said, it's the best platform for the associate level certifications because they do cover it in depth, and they have a lot of hands-on labs that kind of help you get familiar with the system. I see people all the time, they take A Cloud Guru, and I say, did you take the solutions architect curriculum? And they say, yes. Did you finish it? Yes. Did you get the certification? Yes. Now, what is the issue? The issue is, when we apply for a job, we don't know how to kind of explain what we did. I said, did you? And then I asked them, did you do the labs? And they're like, nah, we kind of skipped the labs. The labs are very crucial because the labs do act as hands-on experience. And it's one thing to kind of see something and read something, but it's another thing to actually practice it and do hands-on. And the way that I did the labs was I did it 3 times. I did it the first time with the instructor, and then I did it the second time just watching the videos, and the third time I tried to do it myself without any aid. Until I was able to finish a lab without any aid, that's when I was sure that I understood the process and I understood what was going on, which is super key because that helps you kind of connect the dots between what you read and what's actually being done.
Interesting. It's definitely a step up from the Certified Cloud Practitioner, where that was more of a memory game, which I've realized, at first I thought, I've got the Certified Cloud Practitioner exam, great. But then, like you said, now you're now being tested on the different aspects of AWS and whether you understand it, which is why I think project work, I guess it's a form of project work, is really important if you're looking to get a job on the market, especially within the cloud computing industry, because you need to understand and explain what you're using because Amazon has so many services. So it looks like I may have to invest in A Cloud Guru, but £200 a year as a recent graduate, it seems like a lot, but investment in your education is never money wasted. So I guess I'm going to have to.
Very true.
So the other question I have is, what are some of the challenges you have faced throughout your career journey?
That's a good one. So I would say this, and this is something that a lot of people in IT and not just cloud, definitely face, which would be um, um, imposter syndrome. And that happened to me in the onset. Like I said, when I was interviewing, I had this, I had gone through a bunch of different interviews where, I didn't do well. And to kind of go back to that, so one of the biggest things in that is space is cloud is huge. Like
Yeah.
there are different services. There are a lot of services on cloud. And then in those services, there are different disciplines, right? So, for example, you have big data, you have, MI, you have ML, machine learning, you have artificial intelligence, you have, so typically when you get a job, I don't know if it's the fault of the recruiters or whatever, but they kind of like the way that the job descriptions go, it's very, very broad, right? And it's like there are a lot of memes online you see where, a recruiter posts a job, they're looking for a full stack developer, with AWS background. And it's like they're just trying to get these unicorns. So when you walk into an interview, sometimes, the recruiter probably doesn't, relay what the job is looking, what the company is looking for. So you might get into a situation whereby, this is your specialty, and then you're getting interviewed on something that's cloud related, but it's not what you do. And then that could quickly put you in a bind because, you have your experience, you know what you do, but this is not what you do. And you don't want to be in a situation whereby, you're viewed as someone who doesn't know what they're applying for. So that's just something that you got to be mindful of when you go apply for a job. You want to make sure it's something that fits what you do, or something, it's something that's exactly aligned to your skill set. When I was interviewing initially, I didn't have that knowledge, so I was taking on interviews. I was taking on any AWS related interviews, and I didn't know if it was DevOps or SysOps, and I found myself in situations whereby they were asking me all these questions about things that I had no clue, I had never ever seen before, So when I finally got the first job that I got an offer, even though it was a very good interview, I still was so nervous because I was like, what if I go in there and it's like, my first day, they kind of just, give me this work to do that is not what I know. And, I'm not able to perform the job and I get fired. That was one of my biggest fears. So the way I got over it was, first of all, and let me just say this, it's hardly any company that will let you come in and start working on day one, And when I say hardly, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. My current job, when I got in, I started working on day one, but that was because I came in, at a certain level. But most companies are going to train you before they even let you, start anything. There's already an onboarding process that would require you to basically go through some training and some tests to be able to, get you to a specific level. A lot of times when companies bring you in, they just want to kind of have a feel of how you process things, right? They're not looking for you to be able to exactly execute something specific. They want to see how you process situations so that when they give you a situation, you're on the right frame of mind to be able to, get that solution. So don't focus on the don't focus on the details and the specifics. Just kind of have an understanding of the way things work and have a train of thought that gets you to a desired solution, right? So that was how I kind of like started the approach that I started having. Like, if I don't know it today, I know where I could go find that information, and I could come back tomorrow, and I'll know what know what to do. So that kind of helped me a lot with imposter syndrome. And it was just a lot of confidence, so I realized that, sometimes I've seen people who kind of know what they're talking about, but they don't have the confidence behind it to make them look, like they know what they're talking about. And I've seen people who have absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and they have so much confidence that people kind of buy into that. So you always have to have that confidence and always be willing to say, I don't know this right now, but I could go, train up on it and study about it. And people want to see that, that genuineness, that truthfulness, nobody's a master of everything, especially in cloud, it's so big. So you have to be able to say, well, I'm not familiar with this right now, but I know how I could kind of get, close that skill gap. And that's what people want to see. So once you have that mentality, the confidence, it's pretty much very easy for you to kind of get over imposter syndrome. I could tell you that since my first 3 months and that first job, I haven't felt that since then. There's no situation that I feel like I can't handle, and that's just the way I handle that challenge for me.
Awesome, thank you. There's 2 points that I wanted to say about the imposter syndrome. That's exactly how I felt. Like, I'm starting my new job very soon, and my manager was telling me the stuff I was doing, and I was like, are you sure you've hired the right person? But like you said, it's about being like, okay, I don't know this, but it's in my line of field or line of work, so I can research it or network with people who might also know about it. And then another thing, which is really annoying about the cloud computing industry, is like they want you to have AWS knowledge. I did a tech course, but we were focusing on one part of Amazon Web Services. So I can tell you about the Internet of Things and QuickSight, but I couldn't tell you about VR or all the other stuff. So it's really hard, I guess, in cloud computing because there's so many areas. Like, you might only know one area of AWS. I can't tell you about virtual reality or anything else. So it makes it kind of difficult when applying for jobs, because they might be looking for a specific part of Amazon Web Services, but you haven't necessarily, invested in that or learned about that. So you can't actually utilize the resources on there. So I think for me, who started my career journey, I think that's one of the challenges that I'm facing. It's like, maybe I should just focus on one particular niche area of Amazon Web Services or cloud computing, and then apply for jobs specific to that area, because it's not possible for me to learn everything about AWS. There's so many services, as they say. What is it? Master, jack of all trades.
Must have none. Yeah. So I mean, I totally understand. That's a big concern for people who are in the cloud space, not just AWS, or even tech in general. Tech, like I said, tech is huge. Yeah. But from the cloud perspective or for the AWS perspective, I always tell people, listen, get that foundational knowledge, right? So get that the cloud practitioner certification, and then always have a thumb on the market, right? So always be in tune with what is coming out with AWS, new services, reinvent, right? You look to see. So get in touch with those things, right? So you can kind of have an idea of, of different services that they offer. And believe me, that is how I do a lot of my work, right? Because the way it works, the way jobs come in the real world as a solutions architect is you have a client that has a specific problem. And the question is, how do we do this in cloud, or how do we fix this in cloud? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, once I hear that solution, I already have something in the back of my head that jumps up, right? And it's based on something that I've seen before in AWS. So maybe I heard AWS launched a new service that does this and does that, right? I might not have read up on that service and see what exactly it could do, but I have an idea of what that service can, have an idea of what it does. So when I get a need for a solution, automatically in my head, I could already pick up what services, what services I need for that solution, and then that shortens the time. That shortens my research time, because right away I could go and look at, say, oh, my client needs a monitoring solution. Boom, CloudWatch pings up in my head. Right away I could go look at CloudWatch and say, oh, what does CloudWatch offer, and how can this help my client solve this problem? If it doesn't work, then I could go to something closer. Or, I could go to the second option. But most times, once I hear a problem, right away I could already have the solutions popping up in the back of my head, just because I keep a tab on things that come up with different services and what they offer. So that's something that I always tell people to kind of get in the habit of, to help you reduce your research time when it comes to actually building out a solution.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with tech, especially cloud computing. Like, it's a continuous learning journey. You can never settle for it's not like a degree where you learn and you move on. Like, you're continuously learning. You have to keep up to date with the trends, because what is popular now might be out of date in a few months' time. So I think that's one of the exciting things about tech, is that it's always changing, always evolving. You've always got to be on job, otherwise, what you learned might be useless in a few years' time, or it might be out of date, which is, really one of some of the challenges, but also quite exciting about tech, I guess. So I wanted to ask you, what area of tech, for those people who are looking to get into tech and they want to get into something lucrative within tech, what area of tech would you advise, like a recent graduate, to look into? Or let's say in cloud computing, is there a certain area that people should look into, or is there a new technology that people should jump on before it blows?
Sure. So it's funny, right, that you mentioned that. I mean, as an AWS guy, someone called me an AWS fanboy, but I always push people to kind of advocate for people to go the AWS route, because if you look at the market, they do have a huge market share. Granted, a lot of companies are kind of, not, I wouldn't say catching up, but other companies like, Azure and GCP and even Alibaba Cloud, they've grown, every day. But AWS still has the market by a landslide, just because, they're so, the innovation is on 100. Like, they have new ideas, new services coming out every week. They're just so far. It's going to be hard for any company to catch up to them. Now, in terms of things in AWS that I would say people kind of focus in, I'm more on the application infrastructure side. So that's where my specialty is. But just from being in the industry, I've seen a lot of uptick in big data. There are a lot of people who are beginning to leverage big data for forecasting and bringing values to companies. So that's one space that I see that's really growing. The AI space too, AI ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning is also big. It's also a big space that's growing. Actually, I was even thinking about picking up some AI, some machine learning skills. SageMaker is actually a tool, like the AWS tool for machine learning. And just because I'm working on an actual personal project that requires some machine learning stuff, and I was like, I could outsource that to somebody, or I could start studying on that and try to do it out myself. So that's a big place that I think people could focus on, machine learning. Another thing that I would say from the application and application infrastructure standpoint, which is always going to be there, right? Because people are always going to have applications. That's one of the biggest of AWS, the AWS platform, to build applications. There's been a shift, a trend towards serverless technology. So people are going more from using EC2 instance to just leveraging Lambda functions now, which are much more cheaper, which are faster, more lean. And then from a database standpoint, people are shifting from traditional SQL databases to NoSQL. So you see a lot of like Dynamo database, which is a NoSQL database hosted by AWS. Those are being used to build a lot more applications. So rather than having your standard 3-tier application, which would be usually EC2 instances for your application servers, your web servers, and maybe your RDS instance for your databases, you could have people who are like now serving the front end out of S3 bucket using CloudFront distribution, and then having the middle layer be Lambda functions to do the web server, and then the back end just connected to a NoSQL database like Dynamo. So I've worked with applications on both sides, and it's much more easier to use the serverless functions. First of all, you don't have to keep a EC2 instance of all these things running, so it's more cheaper, right? So like for instance, Lambda function is you only pay per invocation once you call a Lambda function, rather than having an EC2 instance running for a year. You could just pay for a Lambda function, and you get charged every time that function is run. And so databases, DynamoDB is way more faster than a traditional SQL database, because it's a NoSQL database, and it's much more linear, and the throughput is better than your typical RDS. So you get a lot more function from serverless technology, and I see that that's a trend that in the next couple of years, a lot of companies are going to just start leveraging fully serverless functionalities for applications.
Awesome. So my take is, everyone, big data, machine learning, and serverless functions, which are all applications which are run on the cloud anyway. So basically, cloud computing. And
then you had mentioned IoT too. So IoT is that's a huge space too. As you know, right now everyone is all about the smart. Go to a house, there are smart appliances and smart things, and you're going to have smart cars. Autonomous cars are going to be self-driving very soon. So those are going to leverage a lot of IoT. So that is actually one of the another bigger sector that's shown a uptrend.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, because I was doing a tech course, and the tech course that I was doing, they're focusing on Internet of Things. And it's mad to think, like, a year ago, I was doing a chemistry degree, and then a year later, cloud computing, I'd never heard of it. And now I was doing Internet of Things. And part of my project was being able to use sensors to predict when a machine was going to shut down. And it's crazy. Like, technology is crazy, and there's always something new that you'd never think was possible or could ever happen. So I think A lot of people are a bit confused because they're like, oh, if I do tech, then I can't really do something that I love, or, I can't really do beauty. Like, I think the future of technology is combining your love for, let's say, beauty with technology, or beauty or technology with, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the beauty of tech. Tech is integratable with pretty much anything in life. Anything you think of, any other passion you have, it could be integrated with tech, and that's one of the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think it's just finding something that you're interested in and then somehow applying technology into it. Because I have a friend who wants to get into tech, and I was like, you should set up your own personal project in an area of interest. So she has her own business, and think, okay, so start up your own personal project where you're using technology to, like, assist your business or help your business. And yeah, I mean, tech is the future, and if you're not on tech, then I don't know for you. But yeah, no, thank you so much for that insightful interview. It's very exciting. No wonder you're an AWS consultant. You really vouch for them. You're their ambassador.
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much. Today, thank you, Azuka, for accepting to be a part of my interview. I actually found him on Clubhouse. He was talking. I thought, I have to have him on my YouTube channel, all the way from America. We're still able to communicate due to the wonderful technology which has enabled us to communicate, even though we have a time difference and there's a pandemic. So once again, thank you, Azuka, for agreeing to be on my YouTube channel. And if you'd like more videos, more interviews, me interviewing tech experts, then make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and I'll be back with another video. Bye.